If you're new to reading classic books or you would like to read classic books again, then this video is for you. I have gathered together some of my top favorite classic books that I would recommend for people who are not yet familiar with classic books or are intimidated by the genre. So these are the classic books that have stood the test of time and are still popular. I'm really excited about talking about them. So grab yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and get ready to discover classic books that I would highly recommend for people who want to get back to reading classic books or want to be introduced to classic books, and why I think you should pick them up. The way that I have selected these books is I picked up the ones that are easy to read, not very bulky. These are books that are around 350 pages and less. I will be going through them by genre, so you can actually skip ahead if you are not interested in a particular genre. Do let me know if you've read any of these books, what did you think about them, and do share your thoughts in the comments below. First genre is fantasy, and for that I would recommend Metamorphosis for Kafka. This is an amazing book and very, very small. It takes you through the journey of someone who woke up not as a human anymore, and the reaction that he got from his family. It makes you ask a lot of questions and wonder whether you are accepted for who you are. The writing is very simple. The story is actually much shorter to what you see here, because this is a collection of other stories by Kafka as well. Next genre is feminism, and for that I have two books recommendations. The first one is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I think this is her best work. It's beautiful. The writing is very smooth. You get into her head and you will understand a lot about relationships. And the next one is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. This is actually a biography. It's a very, very powerful story. It's part of a series of her biographies. I think it's the first book. This is the only book I have read for her. Super amazing, super powerful. The language again is really simple. You'll go through Maya Angelou's experience as a child and racism. Next genre is fiction short stories, and for this I have picked up 24 Hours in the Life of a Woman by Stefan Zweig. Really small book. It's basically what the title says. It's a 24 hours with a woman telling her story to someone else. The writing is very beautiful. It's very simple. And you get to learn so much about women and what they think and what they go through. And there's a lot of life lessons from this book. Next is historical fiction, and for that I picked up two books. The first one is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. This is a very simple book. Beautiful writing. It's about the friendship of two men who are trying so hard to be accepted in a very unfair world. This is gonna make you cry. And the second one is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is my all-time favorite classic book. I will always suggest to people who want to get back to reading classic books, because honestly this was my first classic book that I read as an adult. It is the reason why I love classic books. It's beautifully narrated by two kids and their experience with their father, who happens to be a lawyer, defending a black man. If you are confused about any classic book, or if you're confused about which book to read, this would be my number one choice. Next genre is horror books, and for that I picked up four books. First one is none other than Psycho by Robert Bloch. I only read this recently and I was very surprised that I never picked it up earlier than this. Beautiful twist, beautiful writing, very short. As you can see, I think it's one of the very few books where I can say that the movie adaptation was equally good. It was beautiful. Next is horror Gothic. Actually, the remaining three of the horror genres are actually horror Gothic. I've picked up two books for Shirley Jackson, which is We Have Always Lived in a Castle and The Haunted of Hill House. I have loved these two books. As you can see, they're very short, very small. And the next one is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. beautiful writing, beautiful message, and you'll get to understand so much of how Oscar Wilde sees himself. This was probably a very controversial book back in the days, and I'm so glad that Oscar Wilde has ever existed, because he's just a beautiful man, and I love this book. Next is romance, and for that I picked up 4 books. The first one is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Very cute, beautiful story. Please don't think of the movie when you are reading this book, because this is far better, and the relationship between the men and even the women was much deeper, and it's very short as well. The second one and the third one are actually 2 of my favorite books by Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice. These are beautiful books, and the covers are completely different. These are the reasons why I really love Jane Austen. I've only read 3 books for her so far, and the writing can be a little bit more advanced, but because she writes so beautifully and she's so witty, and there's a lot of sarcasm, and she's actually funny. Her stories are very smooth, you will not get lost. And the last one is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is a beautiful book. It's a little bit dark, very gothic. The writing is a little bit on the heavier side, because there is a little bit of accents changes. There is one main character which you will not understand the way he talks, so it's a little bit advanced. Not so much, but again, this is a beautiful book. It's a relatively short book. I loved it, and I think it's worth checking out as well. Next genres are sci-fi, dystopia, and for that I've picked up 2 books. The first one is Animal Farm by George Orwell. I finished this in one setting. The writing is extremely simple. It's basically just like what the title says, Animal Farm. I prefer this book than his other book, 1984. This is much deeper. It's relatively easier to read as well. Second one is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Very small book, as you can see, but oh my god, it's so powerful. It's one of those books that have been banned quite often. For a person who actually loves books, this is quite disturbing in a way, because it's about a society who does not want to have books around. This is a beautiful book, and is super recommended. The last couple of books that I have is YA fiction, so they are as simple as it could get. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I love this book. When I picked it up, I had no idea what's in it, and when I read it, I was amazed by it. The language is a little bit difficult, because the main character uses a lot of slangs. Don't be intimidated by the slang words, because you will get the hang of it eventually, and you will get to understand what is he talking about. Beautiful book though. Last but not least is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. A beautiful story about friendship, about boys who wants to be gangsters. I just finished it in one setting as well. It's a beautiful book, and I thought the writing was so simple. There's nothing challenging about it. So yeah, these are the books that I would highly recommend to people who want to ease into classic books. As you have seen, these are actually really small books. They're not bulky, and some of them you will be able to finish them in one setting. I hope that by mentioning the books by genre will actually help you in selecting which one would you like to explore first, and just get into this beautiful world of amazing writing and amazing storytelling, and experiencing the life how it used to be decades ago. I really hope that you liked this video. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, bye!